Well, welcome this morning to Blood Moon Oracle. After doing all of the um, zodiac signs, I am going to go ahead and do just a general reading on abundance. There are those that don't identify with zodiac signs. I come to realize that. But maybe they do want to tap into just a general message. Well, this might be for you. This is going to be the encouragement of the day, your abundance. Even if you did tap into a zodiac sign, you could still tap into this as well. I am using just a few oracle decks. One is a new deck, my Holy Wow Money. And then I have my Divine Abundance. I'm using my Clarity Tarot. And then a Kipper deck, a Rainbow Kipper. Welcome to Blood Moon Oracle today. My name is Leticia, and this is your general read for abundance. Let's take a look and see what comes out. All right. I hope you guys are well today. Like, share, comment. Welcome. Okay. So we have a few cards that came out today from our first Oracle deck. The first one says, I already know how to speak to my people. My people just get me. Speaking my truth sets other people free too. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I heard that. I am the bridge. I love connecting others with their destiny. Circumstances have changed, and so have I. So when we look at your abundance, first of all, let's take a look at the fact that abundance is more than just money. Abundance is life and how we get to experience it. Abundance is being able to have beautiful, I don't know why I'm hearing testimonies. Who's watching me? It could be somebody religious. It's being able to have beautiful testimonies or beautiful stories to tell about our experiences and the fact that they have given us such fulfillment in life and ways to enjoy life at the highest level of experience available, right? Abundance is just that. We are earthly vessels filled with energy. When we compare the two, the physical with the metaphysical, with the spiritual, right? I guess the metaphysical would be the physical and the spiritual. But when we compare the two, it's having the best of both worlds. Like you can have happiness, you can also have, prosperity, you can have wealth, you can have health, you can have love, you can have um, spiritual abundance. And so it's touching every area of life and being able to experience that in real time and live to tell about it too. And so that's what we're talking about when we talk about abundance. It's looking at every way that we can see that come across for us. And usually that may look different for everybody. Like, what is your desire? What is your wish in life will determine like what type of abundance shows up for you. Because again, it's experiential. And so I feel like for someone, this is about you being able to communicate that. There's a lot about speaking truth. There's a lot about translating over into the world what's in your heart. It's also for someone about you, possibly even bringing forth some legacy that was left to you. There's some talk about ancestors' wildest dreams. Like sometimes we don't even realize that we are the epitome of a vision that was given to those that came way before us. Like we are living it. And the ancestors are so happy, some of them, right? They're so happy and so proud, when we get to carry the mantle forward, whatever that is. That could be part of your abundance as well, connecting with what you have been given to share with the world, to be liberated in ways that was only something that those that came before us could dream about. Our abundance could be about being in a position to help others realize that too. That could be part of our abundance. And having this experience where we're just consistently evolving into our path, into our callings. This experience just feels really powerful, meaningful, purposeful. It feels deep. It doesn't feel superficial, but it feels like this is something to live and tell about. This is something that you would sit down on a porch and, just have discussions with your grandchildren about life and about all that it has to offer. That's abundance as well. And so, however that translates for you, I do feel like it comes from a deep place. These are things that come from struggle, that come from, long periods of having to fight to dig yourself out of burdensome places. And this may not be you. This could be the experience of those that came before you so that you could have this opportunity to experience these things. It's more than just passing on money, right? This is passing on um, a culture, beliefs, values, passing on purpose, passing on missions, passing on um, this way of being, this way of life that's meant to sustain, though. That's meant to sustain. And so, for whatever it is, you tap into it and pull out whatever it is that applies to your situation, whatever resonates with you. If it's about going out and communicating and spreading truth, if it's about connecting with those people that you feel like have been called to you, being an extension, the arms of the ancestors, or being able to bridge gaps and bring people to where they need to be, or bring information to people that otherwise would not know anything about, right? That's big too, because we live in a world of deception. A lot of stuff is hidden for a reason. There are those that have been called to unveil those things. That's abundance. And to continuously evolve as well. Okay. And so let's get some tarot, see what else Spirit has to say. All right. So what else? This is a general read about your abundance. A general read about your abundance. Hmm. Okay. For some, this is about taking the more not understanding, taking the more literal approach as we look around and evaluate things. What I got is the justice. I got the lovers, the emperor, and the ten of swords. Okay. And so this is about when we look at your abundance, this is a time or a space where you could be right now that you are looking at things at face value, not in a judgmental way, not trying to um, categorize or place some type of preconceived notion, but this is about looking at things just plainly for what they are. And this could be in light of how we're experiencing. Many times we get to experience through our emotions, how we're emoting, how we are analyzing things through our experience. And it feels very enlightening, not necessarily overly emotional, but it's taking things at face value and just taking what you've been shown and realizing what it is. And then using that information and going that way, choosing what really is aligned with your path at the moment. And I feel like it's not going in too deep to try to make too much out of it. It really feels really simple. We're in a time and day where we can't overanalyze. Well, we have to be critical when we're thinking about things, but when we look back at how often we are misguided away from truth and how we have been misguided for a long time, like sometimes we just have to look at things at face value and see it for what it is. What I mean by that is if we've been told for centuries that, for instance, if we've been told for centuries that, um, I'm gonna use a good example, that beating your children into submission is the way to keep them obedient. We've been told that. Not only have we been told that, we've learned that through an experience that has been had through our lineage, our ancestry, through our experience as a people. And it's not just Black people, it could be, whoever has learned this way. And we've been told that for all these years. And now all of a sudden, we see the outcome, like we believed without really taking a look at the outcome of what we've been told. Like there's many different ways to rear a child. It just doesn't have to be with a paddle. It could also be with uh, re um, reinforcing, you know, um, information and reinforcing concepts and principles over and over and over, practically reinforcing them as well as communicating them as well. There's lots of different ways that you can parent and rear a child. It's not just one way, but when you've been taught one way, not only taught that way, but that way actually was forced upon you, it becomes a way of life that has been accepted. And then when everything else in society also reinforces that idea that you're deserving of that, like there's so many different ways that that comes in and says, this is the way to go to create obedience. That's the key word, obedience. And you wake up one day and you're like, what am I doing? Like, why would I ascribe to that? And then there's proof that it doesn't work because you have this element of rebellion that happens, right? And it just doesn't work, right? It may appear to work, but what happens is it ends up being more manipulative than anything. The child develops a manipulative way of avoiding getting in trouble. It's not even authentic to who they are. They've just learned to avoid the punishment. And so I just use that as an example. If we've been shown this way so many years, and then all of a sudden we come to a time where it's like, it becomes obvious, like, that doesn't work. It didn't work on me. What makes me think that it would work on them, on my children? Things like that. I use that as an example of today's society, but there are other things that are more blatant, more damaging, that has been um, reinforced by society. It has been taught in the schools and upheld in the justice systems. It has been upheld by the government and supported by society, but it doesn't necessarily make it right. Just because it's widely accepted does not make it right. Even if it's widely accepted by the world, there are things right now that are staring us dead in the face that don't necessarily make sense. If we take time to stop and think, are we thinking? For someone, this is part of your abundance, is having awakening, having revelation, having information and truth come to you in such a massive way that it shifts your whole experience, your whole reality. And I just use that as an example of taking a look at what is true versus what has been presented. Because now there's a time where things are being presented and the veil is being lifted off of them so we can really see it for what it is. And we're looking at it and we're like, oh my God, that's what that was the whole time. Why was I seeing anything different? There's going to be things that happen like that. And we are going to be in a position to just see it for what it is, not emotionalize it, That's one way to manipulate us into believing a lie. We emotionalize experience so it's more acceptable, more believable, more palatable. But that's not going to work for you anymore. Spirit is saying the veil is being lifted, and you're going to clearly be able to look back and see the truth as you move forward and align as you move forward as well. This is part of the abundance that you're experiencing. It's not going to be emotional. It's going to be as a matter of factly. It is what it is. And it's going to be enlightening. It's going to reveal a lot about us, a lot about this time that we're in. It may have something to do with you stepping into a position of speaking, and having this experience of being some um, conduit, if I can say that lightly. I do feel like there's possibly something about your calling here, or something, because there's a lot in the original oracle cards that talk about being positioned, being called, stepping into, um, onto your path, being, someone that does. There's action here and representation as well. That's why I'm saying that. And then there's also evolution. There's change here that's coming out. And so take that how it resonates. We also have the lovers. And when we talk about your abundance, this is about harmony. The lovers are two energies that may be opposite, but in harmony, it makes a whole, right? The yin and the yang, the feminine and masculine, the sun and the moon. Um, and this is bringing balance to our understanding that there's two sides to everything. There's something about needing to understand that when we talk about our abundance, because there may be a whole part of the picture that we're missing and that we are neglecting or negating that will add a sense of wholeness to our experience. When we talk about the lovers, we're talking about harmony, balance, this mutuality, um, working in lieu of the benefit of the whole, working in partnership, being inspired all together, not leaving anything out. And the reason why that is important when we look at understanding and how we practice, when we look at how we ritualize, I'm hearing that as well. If we purposely leave out certain parts because we don't acknowledge them, we don't understand that that's a very important part of the whole, then we're missing a whole part of our abundance that we should be able to experience. And so this is part of acknowledging that there is this wholeness that we are called to experience, acknowledging all sides of our being in this experience. Um, a lot of people, would believe that we only need one part, one side of the whole, and we're just fine. But I would say that everything was created with a purpose. Everything was created to have some type of functionality. It's interwoven, and we can look at that as our, community, our collective as well. Everybody has been given a purpose or a role, no matter how small, no matter how big, how important, or how mundane. Um, Everything has a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. And we talk about our abundance. There's something about acknowledging things that may have been neglected. Maybe things are going to come to the light, or understanding has come in that allows us to see things differently, or there's some understanding that's coming about. There's a widening of comprehension as it pertains to balance. And the Two of Cups even takes it a bit further. This is the card that even talks about soulmate. Isn't always just about how we think it is. A soulmate can be, I believe it can. I believe it could be a cat, you know. I have a few soulmates that aren't men. I'm a woman. Many people think their soulmates have to be a man, someone that they marry and spend the rest of their lives with. No, a soulmate is someone that you see and you are aligned. There's some connection that you have with that person in the spirit. And there is just I guess you could say it could be purposeful as well. In this lifetime, there's some purpose of being aligned with that person. And there's some connection that you have where you are aligned and you see on the same level in some type of way. Two of Cups has that energy. And I have soulmates that are younger, feminine. I call them my daughter. And I have soulmates that are animals. Um, and I also believe I have soulmates that are the opposite sex as well. And so it is, I believe it's really grounded around purpose. And that's just how I see it, that's my belief. But there's something here where we are understanding something on a deeper level that's cultivating our abundance. It's purposeful. It's not just to say, oh, we see things alike or we're connected. No, there was a higher purpose around it of having these two energies aligned at this point in time in existence, right? That's what a soulmate is. And so there's something about soulmates that are coming up when we talk about our abundance that is very important right now. And being very stable with the Emperor here. Stability is big right now, and maturity is big, being loyalty is big. And these are things that we get to experience, not only in practice, but we get to experience that in communication and in connection with other things, with other people. The Emperor brings success and this ability to navigate our experience sovereignly. That doesn't mean that we're God, but it gives us the ability, I feel like, to really take the control that we've been given and utilize that to the best of our ability as we move forward. We talk about our abundance. We have been given more power than people would like to admit. This is part of our abundance, is that we have a level of authority, right? That we don't utilize because we don't know we have it. But that is where we are right now. We're in a place where we're able to do that. We're able to do that. There's a lot of responsibility behind that. There's a lot of maturity that's required for this. And it calls for us to be responsible to it too. But this is part of our abundance, is being able to be sovereign. I believe that's what this is about, being able to be sovereign. As we're coming into this time right now, part of what's being revealed is that sovereignty. hmm Because the emperor is all about, when we think about an emperor has been given authority to govern, to run, to be this figure that is held in a position of being able to oversee. And I hate that word because we have really had very negative experiences, but we're talking about an energy that understands and that is responsible. This is not about power. It's not about power. Authority is something that's different. I think authority is it leans more towards the greater understanding of what we are responsible for, as opposed to what we get to rule, right? What we are responsible for, as opposed to what we get to rule. Even though that's part of it, that's not the center focus. It's more about making sure that what has been placed under your care is cared for, right? There's a lot that comes along with that. And the emperor stays ready to fulfill those needs. And it's part of the sovereignty. that has been given because of the acceptance of this type of responsibility. So I think we are part of our abundance. We're in a time where we are able to step into this energy for ourselves. And it's not for everybody. I do understand that. Not everybody's ready for that. Um, some people may be comfortable where they are. This is the abundance that's available to those that receive it and that understand that it's available, that it has always been available. It is now becoming clear and evident if you're aligned with that energy, right? Lastly, we had a Ten of Swords. This ain't gonna be easy, baby. And when we talk about spiritual abundance, this is something that we believe we had to fight for. And in many cases, we have, because when we look at the Ten of Swords, many times this comes across as persecution, right? When we look at spiritually, persecution and strain from having to care for others that don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. Um, and feeling, under pressure and under suspicion, is having all kind of negative um, experiences, unfortunate experiences. But I believe this is part of the abundance. I think was I doing Gemini last night? One of the air signs. And there was some, abundance is not always pretty. It's not always something that's just going to be easily pursued. Like sometimes we're going to have to fight to stand in our abundance. Sometimes it's going to be um, situations where it may be being, withheld from us. We're going to have to fight our way into it. And, with that being so, we understand that nothing comes without a cost. Nothing. And even as I stand in where I am today, I feel like I'm very, um, oh, I'm happy, happier than I've ever been in life because I stand in this place of understanding these things. But it came at a cost. Every day it comes at a cost. There's a trade off for this. The trade off is no longer being willing to accept things as they were. The trade off is being willing to step into places where you may, in fact, be doing it alone. That's okay. Compared to having to be under have your neck under somebody's foot. That's okay. Like, what would you pay for your abundance? What would you give in exchange to experience your abundance? That's the question. And so the 10 swords is like having your ideas, having, your privileges attacked and held back, possibly in some kind of way, in different ways. That's part of it too. Because the fact of the matter is, one of the things that we've learned is if you don't pay for it, that it's not necessarily valuable. There's kind of like a truth to that because of how we think. We've been trained to believe that anything of value, it costs something. And so whenever we get something free, we deem it to be less valuable than something that we had to pay for. Maybe that's creating our own circumstances and our own situations. So be it. So be it. But this is about having to really fight for your beliefs. Be prepared for that. Having to fight for your beliefs because we're talking about your abundance. Okay. Let's see here. We're going to pull out some Skipper. What is this all about, Spirit? Give us more information. Okay. Yeah, about restrictions. Court official, prison, good lady, change, main character. So court official and prison is like dealing with restrictions or having certain things, feeling like they are somehow blocked off or walled off for some reason. Um, and it almost gives me the feel of like having like the government tell you what you need to do or how you need to respond or carry yourself, right? Having some restriction here to what it is that you would feel um, would be rightfully yours to do. That could be part of, someone's experience. My videos, I've had responses from people all over the world, and it's different. I know for us here, that may not be so realistic, but it absolutely is realistic depending on where you are in the world. There are still people that don't have the right to wear certain clothing or to cut their hair, to go out, in a dress the way that they want when they go out in public. We still have places in the world that govern people to that extent. But however this resonates for you, this could also be about you not being able to, you know, exude your abundance when it comes to your own body or some decision around how you spend your money or, something like that. And so this could be the energy tapping into that. This could be about not having to feel like you have to be culturally accepted in a certain way. There's a certain freedom here of being able to follow what you feel like you're being called to. What does your abundance feel like? For some people, that may feel like a sunny day with pink and yellow flowers and lemonade. For other people, that may feel like this renegade experience, going to free some people from, it just depends on what it is that you identify as being abundant. Like what is fulfilling for you? I feel like that's changing from the idealistic way that has been taught to what feels right, what feels real. And it doesn't always have to be comfortable. It doesn't always have to be comfortable. And it doesn't always have to be socially um, accepted either. This is coloring outside of those lines. This is something that's bringing in change as you are changing as well. I feel like you could be a male or you have some dealings with a male that possibly brings in encouragement around this different way. Let's see here. And like I've been saying, it's more than just money. For some people, the more money you get, the worse life gets. It's not about money. Money many times brings in sadness. That's one of the biggest lies that's ever been told, is that you need money to be happy. We do need money to live. Unfortunately, the world is made up of these rules and these structures that create this need to have to pay for things that are free. Go figure. You have to pay for water? You mean that thing that falls out of the sky and that runs freely on the earth? We have to pay for that? But we sometimes get the misunderstanding around money, and we look to it thinking that it's going to provide some level of happiness, and it's not. Sometimes the more money we get, the more unhappy life becomes. Sometimes money is the very thing that breaks families apart, that breaks these structures. When we look at the family, this is a structure that's built to really be like the center, sometimes the center point of our abundance. You mean to tell me something like money can break that apart? Yes, it can. When we don't have the right understanding of what money is and the purpose of it. And this is something like where, you can't, the proof is in the pudding. You can't say one thing, and not really mean it, not really align with that and expect a good outcome, right? This is not something where you can operate in dishonesty or in mass and expect a good outcome. This is something where we are being allowed and being called to step outside of the pretense. One of the things that's been coming out in the readings too for the abundance is the fact that the more you step out in your authenticity, the more you pull towards you things that are yours, because whatever is yours can never be lost. But when we put on masks or we operate in something other than what we are, then we start attracting things that are not really for us because we're not really being our true self. And so we can expect a good outcome when we allow ourselves to operate in truth and honesty of who we are and what we're feeling, like what we feel we're being called to do. And it may be difficult things, it may be hard things, um, it may be things that will, in fact, cause disruption. Um, Now, I do feel like there's something about gifts coming up here. Something about gifts coming out here, maybe operating in our gifts. For someone, this could be about love. The Two of Cups did come out. There could be something here about love coming in for you when it comes to your abundance. That may be part of your experience here. More so, I'm feeling this strong call, is what I'm feeling, a strong call. Um, Standing in truth, aligning with what's being revealed to you, um, allowing yourself to evolve naturally, not feeling like you have to, perform some cookie cutter model, right? That's where your abundance is. And that's true for all of us. That's come out in all of the messages when I did the zodiac signs. This is about aligning and allowing yourself to really honestly exist without having to put on. I feel like that is the epitome of abundance. And that's what attracts everything. I see that in real time. People that don't feel like they have to perform or show up a certain way, they just show up in themselves and they're really honest and truthful. And people get that, right? People respect that. I think people admire that. Sometimes people that live vicariously through those that do that, um, because there could be things in their lives as they're watching that person just show up authentically that don't allow them to do it. It's like, well, what would people think? Or I'll get kicked out of the club, or I will be shunned at church. And there are all these fears that keep us from really moving in ways that we are being called to. And so, let's see, the final message, the abundance coming through right now. We'll end it here. I know I've been on for a while and I have to get going. So I gotta go. And so the last message comes through with signs, limitless, divine flow, receiving, and freedom. This is really the abundance. Freedom is really what abundance really means. And even when we're dealing with money, a lot of times money means just that. It gives us the ability to freely choose, to freely move, to freely exist without worry, right? There's a higher level of operating when it comes to money that leads us back to this concept of freedom. And no longer having this sense of resentment, right? Or feeling blocked from what is good for us. That is our abundance. Being released from anything that tries to hold us back. As we see this bird finally flying from the restriction, that's what Spirit is talking about. When we look at that emperor, it's not about power. This is about freedom to exist sovereignly I feel like we've been called to do that. And also understanding that there is a need for us to trust ourselves, not only through this process, but generally, right? With everything that comes from here forward, if we are going to receive what is ours, what is truly meant for us, not in a way that we perceive it, because sometimes spirit has more for us than we can even conceive. And so we have to learn to be in a posture of openness and trusting what comes and trusting our inner guidance and being open to the divine plan, right? Um, which is talking about signs as well, talking about trusting our instincts and messages that are coming in again from the divine, being able to trust ourselves, even when it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it won't make sense because there's some pre programming that we're operating under sometimes, but trusting ourselves. Have you ever had experiences where you're like, something told me not to do that, or something told me to do that, and then later you look back and you're like, dang, I should have did it, or I shouldn't have did it. Had you trusted yourself in that moment, despite what everything else was telling you to do, which is out of programming, it would have ended up much better, right? This is that kind of instinctual, intuitive leading that we're tapping into. And seeing ourselves as, open to receive, be above and beyond anything that we could ever imagine or think, right? Because we are dealing with an energy that is not limited. We are limited, but if we're connected with our source, that's what gives us the potential to expect miracles and change and evolution and release from things that have restricted us, even for centuries, right? This is the energy we're talking about, this kind of evolution. Um, because the truth of the matter is, we're limited. The divine is not, source is not. And source has the ability to use anything and anyone. Everything, everybody is fair game. And who can stand against source? Who can stand against God? I haven't found one yet. That's what we're talking about. Our abundance, being connected to our higher source, operating from that level, not from man's level, from man's statutes and laws and limitations and restrictions, but this is straight from the source. And then divine flow, allowing things to just unfold as they will, as we align ourselves in this way, no matter what the cost, right? This is our abundance to have this level of experience and enjoyment, to be able to operate in exactly what it is that we've been called to. Okay. And remember, it's a weave of different experiences that is coming together here. We're talking about the Two of Cups, how there's so many different parts coming into harmony that have different purposes, right? But it's all working together to bring this experience. And so I do feel like our abundance is all about evolution and opening up to something greater than we've ever experienced, being open to that. We don't even realize how much we have been gifted to experience unless we're open to it, unless we're able to allow ourselves to break out of the mold of what we've been told we're supposed to be experiencing. That's our abundance. It's unlimited. What does that look like for you? Have you tapped in to ask? Have I placed restrictions on myself? Have I only allowed it to show up a certain way because that's what I've been taught? Our abundance is so much more. And what if it was actually limitless, right? What if? That's the great question relating to our abundance. What if? And so that's what I have. I hope that makes sense. That was a bit, that's the way spirit drove it. And so I went exactly the way Spirit took it. And so I do feel like a lot is changing. I can't deny that. And so that was just right up the alley that I would take it. And so I approve this message. Okay. So this is the general message for our abundance. It's not one thing or one experience, it's all that and more. It's being open to it, stepping into what we've been called to. And it's ongoing, it's ever evolving. We are our ancestors' wildest dream. It's ever evolving, right? And then we stand in a position to actually open up for others to step in and experience as well, or to carry the mantle forward as well. Um, it really is a collective experience. And so, like, share, comment, subscribe if you feel led. Let me know if it resonates. Was it too woo woo? Let me know. Blood Moon Oracle is the channel. My name's Leticia. We'll see you next time. Bye.